On today's video, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes new bouncers make, and I'm going to tell you some tips so you can avoid them, starting right now. Hey everybody, my name is Perry. I'm a nightlife security professional. Here on BouncerTips, we give you tips, tricks, and we review tools that we use in the nightlife security industry. At BouncerTips, I want to get to know the people that are watching. So if you would, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also hit that little notification bell. And in the comments section, please type your name and saying, I subscribed, so I know that you're here and I can say hello. Over the years, as a head of security and a club manager, I've hired a lot of employees. Some of those employees were experienced, but some were completely new to the business. In my experience, I've noticed some trends in the mistakes that new security personnel are making. And on today's video, I want to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes I see. The first big mistake that I see is radio communication. Often when I get a new employee, I'll issue them a two-way radio, which they don't really have a lot of experience with. And the biggest problem with that is they think that the club is extremely loud and that they have to yell into the microphone. In reality, all they're doing when they're yelling into the microphone is making a garbled mess that nobody else can understand, which makes it a dangerous situation for somebody new. So what you need to do is, first off, relax, hit that talk button for a second or two before you begin speaking, then speak calmly and clearly and let everybody know what you need. While you're doing that, you want to cup the microphone just so it's blocking some of the external noise and talk directly into it, but do not yell into it. So it's important you practice this with some of your teammates before you hit the floor. The second biggest mistake I see is being over-aggressive. A lot of times, newer employees, in an attempt to prove themselves to fellow staff members, will take a situation, they'll approach a guest, and they think that they have to be aggressive with that person to make them do something. When in fact, the actual best way is just to be calm and cool and communicate with the person effectively, and that will get them to do what you need them to do far more effectively than being aggressive. And the longer that you're in the industry, you'll realize that each situation is a little bit different. You'll have to handle your level of aggression or handle your level of engagement a little bit differently each time. The third biggest mistake I see is being too timid. Let's say something is going on, we have a fight breakout, and a lot of times you'll see newer security staff kind of stay on the outside and not get involved in the altercation. They'll wait until somebody more experienced jumps in there and takes care of the problem. This is very common in the nightclub setting, as it is not your natural response to run into a fight type of situation. Most people's natural reaction is to run the opposite way. However, our job is to make sure we get in there so nobody gets hurt and separate the parties to control the situation. And a lot of times new guys just don't have that confidence level in themselves to jump right in there. And it will just take some time to overcome some of that fear to jump in there and take care of the situation. But it's important that you work through that situation as quickly as possible, as your other teammates need to have confidence in you that they can rely on you to have their back should the situation escalate. They need to know that you're going to be there for them. The fourth mistake is what I call the new Guy Trance. And what that is when you have a new person and you assign them a spot, sometimes what will happen is they'll be so locked into what their task is that they don't pay attention to what's going on around them. For example, you've got the lights, you've got the sound, you've got all the commotion going on around them, and they're so focused on what their task is, for example, opening up a rope or something like that, that they're not even paying attention to what's going on. You could have a girl throwing up right next to them, and they're just continuing to open the rope or do whatever their task is, and they get into a trance-like state, and it's fairly common, and you have to work yourself through that. The best way to do that is make sure that you're keeping an eye out on everything that's going on and keep your head on a swivel so you make sure that you see what's going on throughout the club. Now, if you're noticing that the background is a little different than it normally is, it's because I'm in a different state. This past week, I drove from Arizona all the way to Wisconsin to participate in a festival called Summerfest. It's actually the world's largest music festival, and it's an 11-day festival where I'll be working security. I hope to get some insight and information from some of the professionals that work there and bring it to you here on BouncerTips. Fifth mistake I see is that people get distracted. In a nightclub setting, there's many distractions. There's girls, there's live entertainment, there's all kinds of different stimulus around that can distract you, and you need to be focused on the job at hand. And remember that your job is to protect the assets of the company. And when you're in a nightclub, you need to make sure you're keeping your eyes focused on everything that's happening in the room. Unfortunately, sometimes people get locked into a conversation with guests, employees, or they're not really paying attention, they're locked into a conversation. The best way to handle that situation, and what I typically do, is when somebody's talking to me in the club, I'll be listening to them and I'll acknowledge that I'm listening to them and I'll look over at them. But I'm going to continue to scan what's going on in the club as they're continuing to talk to me. That way, I'm doing what I need to do to make sure that everybody is in the places they're supposed to be and safe, but I'm still engaged in a conversation with the person, quickly acknowledge them, and continue scanning the room, and that's the best way to handle that situation. So those are the 5 biggest mistakes I see new bouncers make in the nightclub. These are all correctable things, and you should work really hard with your manager to get yourself prepared before you hit the floor. So remember to hit that subscribe button. Also follow me on Twitter. And you've just been taken beyond the ropes. Have a great day.